Hello and welcome back to World 360.
My fellow leaders from throughout our hemisphere, for the 9th Summit of the Americas, at a moment when we need more cooperation, common purpose, and transformative ideas that have never been a greater need than today.
That was US President Joe Biden's speech on Wednesday at the 9th Summit of the Americas, an international conference that has taken place approximately once every 3 years since 1994 for the meeting of all leaders from North, South, and Central America and the Caribbean. Now, the last one in 2018 was hosted by Peru, and former US President Donald Trump skipped it. This year, however, the summit was held in the US for the first time since 1994. But this time, the Biden administration's decision not to invite certain leaders in the region and subsequent snubs from figures like Mexican President López Obrador has led some to believe that the event is nothing more than a flop. Let's zoom out for a second to understand the context in which this summit is being held. The Ukraine war is still raging, and we know that several of Russia's allies, long-standing allies, Venezuela, Cuba and Nicaragua, have voiced support for Putin. These also happen to be the 3 countries excluded from the Summit of the Americas this year. Media reports, quoting US official sources, said the Biden administration chose to exclude the leaders of these 3 countries from the regional event because of concerns about the lack of democracy and respect for human rights in the 3 countries. But of course, not everyone thought this was fair. Mexican President López Obrador said for weeks that he would skip the summit unless leaders of these 3 countries were invited. In the end, Washington stuck to its decision and Obrador stayed home. The White House's decision, however, was viewed as confusing. One, because other controversial figures like Jair Bolsonaro, who has been accused by human rights watchers as weakening Brazil's pillars of democracy, pressuring the judiciary, and trying to push forth an anti-indigenous policy, attended the event. While the US didn't seem keen on sharing the stage with authoritarian leaders at a summit that was supposed to be about strengthening democracy, among other topics, let's not forget how in March, the Biden administration had sent a delegation to Venezuela, allegedly to resume discussions about lifting oil imports. In fact, we had done an episode at the time about this issue, for which Biden received bipartisan backlash for reaching out to sanction countries like Venezuela. Another thing to remember is that the summit is being held at a time when the world is facing a food crisis. We know how India had to ban its wheat exports in response to the global crisis, and how other countries, even the US, is worried about feeding their own people. South America is significant in this regard because several countries in the region, like Brazil, are major grain and food producers. This is something Biden touched upon in his speech at the Summit of the Americas.
We'll be rolling out another new initiative, created in cooperation with many of your countries. It includes the U.S.-Caribbean Partnership to address the climate crisis, which the Vice President Harris will lead for our country, and a collaboration among the United States, Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, and Mexico, the hemisphere's largest exporters of food, to increase food production for export, as well as increase fertilizer production.
In short, the Biden administration is working towards a US-Caribbean partnership to increase food production for export, as well as increase fertilizer production. It's clear that in the 1 year since the Biden administration has come into power, a lot of its diplomatic efforts have been directed to Russia and China. But now the ripples of the Ukraine war, be it on food or oil supplies, is reminding Washington of the importance of its immediate neighborhood. However, the boycotting of the Summit of the Americas by some leaders like the Mexican president has led few to believe that America's influence in its neighborhood is diminishing. Franco Ordonez, a White House correspondent for NPR, in a recent podcast said, "So López Obrador is not coming and several other leaders followed suit. It speaks to waning US influence in the region." Thank you so much for watching. This is Pia Krishnankutty for ThePrint. Do subscribe to ThePrint and follow us on social media.